Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Wednesday, January 3, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. We're having a time for change call tonight around 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to cover a lot of territory, a lot of things. It's interesting when we experience in this life, and I believe we all do to certain extents, when we have loved ones that pass, leave the body. And it makes us, it doesn't make us, but it motivates us to reflect on things when we experience that. Whether, it happens to yourself in a situation or, you're in witness to others. It was interesting because years ago when I was experiencing my mother and sister passing, and I witnessed them, I had my mother in it was a retirement home, nice. It wasn't a nursing home at all. She was had her own apartment, that type of thing. And so my sister, who had cancer, breast cancer, and my mother had cancer, and she had cancer when she was in her 80s, and then it was eradicated, breast cancer. And then, of course, because of her what happened, her accident, and the things I experienced. So anyway, the interesting thing is that I watched them. They didn't get along, my mother and my sister, because they were so much alike. And they're both Aries, both really stubborn-headed, and only saw things certain ways. But as they were both facing the end of their stay in the bodies, my sister sat at my mother's bedside in the apartment and began to apologize and ask forgiveness for all the things that had occurred between the two of them over the years. And then my mother did the same with her, and then they forgave each other. But it was interesting because we go through this life and we all have these different adventures, so to speak, and some of them are arduous, to say the least. But to wait all that time, just before you leave that life, to make amends, when knowing, through the life that you were having all these disagreements and interactions, that you didn't do it then, so that you could spend much better time with each other rather than have stressful times with each other. So what did it teach you? Well, great teaching, because of the fact that, and then my mother was worried that that her daughter would leave before her. Okay. And of course that didn't happen. My mother she always said, I want to fall asleep and just not wake up. And actually, in actuality, she fell asleep and she didn't wake up. And my sister, I had her cancer tumor in her breast, 80% gone, through a technique I was using, an application. And the doctor was blown away, and the nurses came in the room. But the problem was that they were giving her chemo, had a plug in her chest. And because of the plug in her chest, she had a mild heart attack. So they put her in the cardio wing, and I couldn't access to continue the formula to eliminate her cancer. So then it just absolutely took off. I was that close, but there's that system, and I couldn't get in there to give it to her. I mean, I couldn't bring it. I could go in there, but I couldn't bring that in there. So anyway, my mother left in October, and then my sister left in December. So when you look at these things all through your life, for me in particular, my father left when I was 13 due to extenuating circumstances in the military. And then a lot longer, his brother left. So, in other words, I've experienced a lot of people leaving within the family, my grandparents, so on and so forth. But what those losses taught me, they taught me many amazing things. I've learned how deeply healing it is to be vulnerable, exposed, real, and authentic about my truth and raw experience of this life. I've discovered that in this life we don't get to choose who we love, why we love them, or how to avoid feeling pain when they have to leave us. I found that only through opening up into my feelings can I experience truly being alive. I've realized that one negative feeling continuously repeated can dominate and destroy an entire life. I've understood the importance of having a childlike playfulness and not taking anything too seriously, and entertain the simple joy of being alive. I know now how to welcome the feeling of pain and honor its teaching, and then understand what it takes to let it go. And I've also discovered that if we don't choose to be with and face our pain, we cannot honestly leap out of bed the next morning filled with real joy. So it's kind of been raised or brought to my attention that this one life contains a huge bag of mixed experiences, which can sometimes feel like lying naked in a bed full of thorny, beautiful roses. It can be emotionally painful, physically uncomfortable, and yet the closer we are to it, the more we can smell the sweet, healing fragrance wafting through the air. Each day, which we still have our family here, healthy and alive, is truly a precious time to be treasured. Learn how to love your friends and family, accepting them exactly as they are. Appreciate the unique bed of thorny roses you've been gifted, and know that if they are really annoying you, you don't have to continue laying on them. This life is a school of learning to respect and honor ourselves, enjoying each moment in the very precious and short time we have here. There is a very sacred and spiritual journey we are each on. The more often we can see this and appreciate our lessons, the easier and juicier life becomes. Love without courage and wisdom is sentimentality. Courage without love and wisdom is foolhardiness. Wisdom without love and courage is cowardice. The one who has love, courage, and wisdom moves the world. Amon Hennessy. The courage to live this life is not something we were born with. We enter this world with curiosity, innocence, and openness, and we develop courage along the way. Courage is slowly growing within by overcoming each one of our anxieties, insecurities, and fears. Courage is like a muscle that we must build, grow, and mature as we experience life and age. Now, when we don't permit courage to develop during our lifetime, we will feel dominated and devoured by this world. There must be a willingness to be strong and vulnerable at the same time. It is in our flexibility and strength that we can hold our ground for the heart to fully open. It is only from an open heart that we reach the deepest, fearless resource of our being and can bask in the divine enlightening energy of our soul. An interesting fact about the word courage is that it comes from the old French word courage, which means heart, innermost feelings, and inner strength. When we are in touch with our heart, we feel that we can undertake anything. Real courage is just like a beating heart. A beating heart that is strong, consistent, resilient, and yet also soft and squishy. A healthy heart is not hard-guarded and tough as nails. A good heart loves life and recognizes that life is not a have-to, but a massive get-to. The heart is always giving us this opportunity to be alive, deeply alive, right now. So don't miss out on it. This life is an amazing experience that we all have been temporarily gifted to enjoy. It takes real mastery over one's mind to live a truly empowered and awesome life. This level of mind mastery requires total transparency, which is the last place we would look to find courage. An open, vulnerable approach has the willingness to allow every micro-truth to shine through. This unveiled nakedness is the great secret to developing the courage and strength that we have nothing to hide. We have nothing to lose. It doesn't matter so much what the outcome is, as much as the exploration of love along the way. When we live long enough, it's guaranteed that one day we will need this transparent secret to find unstoppable courage. So we may as well start practicing now. You might have noticed that not all human beings that you meet are truly alive. It takes a very brave soul to be vulnerable enough to show up and live life fully. Many people pretend they are enjoying their time here. Yet when you gaze into their eyes, they look like and act like they are dead and sleepwalking through life, thinking themselves to be safe, free from pain, danger, or harm's way. They whittle away their time, feeling lazy and avoiding life's challenges. We can see each potential reverent moment of their life slips through their fingers like water. And it feels like they wouldn't notice it or really care if everything suddenly was gone. When we face our fear and sit with our pain, we harness the simple energy inside to be ruthless with our fear, vibrantly creative in our approach, and enjoying the sweetness of being alive. We can then show up emotionally for others, be honest and open with our families, fully embrace the changes and challenges of our loved ones, and enjoy how easy everything flows and changes. With courageous eyes, we can see how everyone and everything is our teacher. We harness the ability to be foolish and risk enough to really go for our dreams. We naturally start to invest our energy in visualizing an amazing, bright, flawless future and stop judging ourselves for whatever shortcomings we were told we had. Courage is not the absence of fear, as many people believe, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. Ambrose Redmond. I feel that one of the greatest accomplishments we can make in a lifetime is to never take anyone or anything for granted. Our lives are always balancing on the edge of a thin dime, and everything can be taken away in a flash. It's essential to consistently practice appreciation for what we have and express this loving communication with everyone in our world. We must choose to become appreciation experts or gratitude experts, remaining positive and supportive with those we care deeply about and cherish. When times are cold and dark for friends or family, it is our job to give them the best love we can give. We may not realize it now, yet the love that we share ends up being the same love we will have to give back to ourselves when our life feels like it's coming to an end. During this precious life, we are guaranteed the most outrageous climax when it's all over. We can enjoy the journey much more if we learn one small skill: to stop holding on to our past pain. The negative voices, arguments, criticisms, and fault-finding must be released if we are going to find emotionally neutral terms within ourselves. To do this, we must practice grabbing hold of the reins of our mind and train it to obey our every wish and desire. We must choose to show the mind that we are the boss and main authority in charge to be respected. When the mind wanders down that deep, dark, and lonely alley towards fear, we simply give it a little kick, turn up the love and inner light inside our heart. Our mind is the designer and creator of our entire life. And only when it's focused in a positive, healthy direction are we then destined to manifest truly wonderful things. Observe and know that what you see is the wheel of Maya, mind, moving round and round, always changing, never stopping for a moment. Know this, and know that there can be no failure. Know this, and understand that your emotions are but dancing chemicals of up and down, on and off, temporary and impermanent. There is no failure if one lives in truth, simplicity, and love. Do not feel embarrassed, for you have not failed. You do not know the final outcome. Be in the present. Live in the present. This is all one can do. Babaji. Now, you may have discovered this. What I found really refreshing is that there is a natural healing mechanism installed in the software of our DNA, which pushes us in the direction of constant growth, healing, and survival. Our physical bodies are designed to automatically heal any cuts or bruises that we have. Our minds, over time, tend to naturally forget and diminish mental and emotional wounds from our past. Unless we tend to keep reenacting and playing out those negative emotional states, they will naturally heal on their own accord. When we are left alone, out in nature, in a safe, quiet environment, without any media or social contact with society, taking in only healing, positive information, eating only clean, raw, organic food, in a matter of 90 days or less, all of our mental, emotional, and even physical problems will all be gone. It is simply nature at work within our DNA, which knows how to naturally replenish, restore, and return the body-mind mechanism back to its natural state. It's like the tiny mustard seed already knows how to establish roots, grow up against gravity, reach towards the sun, and one day bear fruit and seeds for future generations. Our DNA was designed with this effortless program to heal our entire mind-body organism. Since many of us cannot afford to pack up and leave our lives for several months at a time, we must choose. We must perpetually think positively about ourselves, our lives, and future. Now, we might hear this constant subtle war inside ourselves in the form of an attempt to focus and refocus the mind in a positive, creative direction. Past subconscious wounding keeps bubbling up until it is healed. And we are all like sponges who are absorbing negative thinking patterns that we unknowingly don't see spewing from others around us. It is the law of this universe. Garbage in, garbage out. We cannot afford to dwell in any negative thought patterns, as they all will manifest somewhere in our health, in our relationships, or our finances. By simply bringing awareness to only having sacred, empowering, positive, healing thoughts perpetually flowing in, we must have sacred healing experiences coming out. When I look inside and see that I am nothing, that is wisdom. When I look outside and see that I am everything, that is love. And between these two, my life turns, as Rugadata Mirage. We have this, it's an endless journey that we are on. And isn't it interesting that a lot of us are more interested to getting to an end than enjoying the ride. This is where we are taken into yesterday or tomorrow throughout our lives. There really isn't any, there aren't any words that can fully describe the enlightened state of consciousness by itself. People talk about it. We talk about it. It is an experience that is beyond the mind and all mental concepts. We can only know that we've had a taste of it by the enhanced quality of our life experience. Our typical normal walk in the park becomes a romantic rendezvous with the divine. And we are greeted with personal messages and sacred signs of inner guidance on every street corner and billboard that we see. When the state of enlightened consciousness shows up, it turns the mundane into the miraculous. Now there's 4 qualities that will let you know you are stepping into the enlightened state. Be aware that each one naturally happens to you, occurs for you. When you make time to create a closer relationship with the enlightened state of consciousness that is within every one of us, perpetual and effortless reverence for life, for this life. And the enlightened state, we cannot help but feel totally in awe of this life. We are seeing a divine intelligence is deeply rooted and alive in all things, objects, situations, and people. It is obvious that there is a higher intelligence behind every experience, action, and occurrence. We see there's no such thing as coincidence and live in constant reverence for this life, participating with ease in the natural flow, celebrating in this spiritual connection that's all around us. Observing the mirror reflection within every interaction. When the state of enlightened awareness is super strong within us, we stop identifying with our physical body as who we are. We instead see our infinite nature is everywhere, in all things and people. We see it is the background, backdrop, and blackboard that this entire universe is written upon. We know we are the universal body and find every human being as a glimmering facet reflecting this unique, individuated point of consciousness within ourselves. The mirror ignites a natural realization that everyone is our teacher, pointing us back to us, the lessons and messages we most need to hear. The enlightened awareness shows us that we are not separate from anyone and anything, and we effortlessly live in a state of joy and universal harmony wherever we go. Feeling of being deeply settled and completely still inside. No matter what chaos is occurring in the outer world, there is always a point of perpetual stillness, always, always, at our core. We are the center of the cyclone that no drama, violence, or death can threaten. We know our true nature is eternal and that nothing can destroy us. We are rooted within this moment so deeply that nothing can shake us or disturb our inner peace. We laugh with lightness at the trivial stresses that used to plague our daily mind. as we relax deeper into the recesses of our innermost being. A deep knowing that all is perfect in this life. There is a natural understanding that all is well and unfolding exactly as it should. We see this universal perfection that is here now and accept that it has the highest vision in sight of how life should be. We stop fighting with others outside of ourselves because the fight has stopped within ourselves. We are the source of nonviolence, attacking and judging nothing we see within. There is only a respect for the perfection that is constantly unfolding around us. Knowing the mind can have its fabrications about how things should be, yet abide instead in the deeper resources of peace that know otherwise. Being himself the supreme being, but thinking himself to be separate, man strives and struggles to become united. What is stranger than this? Hermana Mauricio. We're moving as a civilization to a higher state of consciousness. It is evolutionary. It isn't talked a lot about because it is so misunderstood. This is an inevitability for all of us. Some now, some later. And remember, it isn't a race. How to reach the enlightened state of consciousness is vital to know that it is available to everyone at all times and perpetually lies dormant at the core of our being. The more we rest within ourselves in a life free from stress, desire, and activity, the more we relax inside and soon realize its astounding power. As this brilliant gateway is gradually opened, we see how easily it is to create anything and everything that we desire. Our normal awareness pierces like a laser beam through the negative beliefs which normally would have stopped us from moving forward. And we see how fun and easy it is to accept the possibility of instant manifestation. The more often we sit still, practice quieting the mind, watching the breath rise and fall, doing nothing, the more we, the divine consciousness, awakens within us. When we stop and meditate on the source of consciousness itself, we discover that it's everywhere we are. It is our very nature and is as bright and brilliant as the sun. It is so obvious that it cannot be missed. When we catch hold of it and let go of our attachment to the outer phenomenal world, we see that this consciousness has a power which is so all-encompassing that we stop looking outside ourselves for answers and start listening to the omniscient wisdom that is constantly bubbling up from within our core. Look at your mind dispassionately. It is not enough to comment. When it is quiet, you can go beyond it. Do not keep it busy all the time. Stop it and just be. When you give it a rest, it will settle down and recover its purity and strength. Constant thinking makes it decay as a Vedanta. With the enlightened state, we can live a life that is free from doubt and fear, because we know that something universally intelligent is guiding us each step of the way. We are never bored with this life, nor seeking gratification from our outer world, because ordinary life situations are constantly transformed into a deeply ecstatic, spiritually awakening moments. There is no attachment to our lives, to desires, to possessing anything, acquiring anything, nor escaping from any experience. We meet our lives full on, embracing the divine circumstances that we are given, facing them with complete ecstasy, because we have already found that we were searching for our entire lives. We've discovered an eternal source of peace within that cannot be shaken or disturbed by anything or anyone in the outer world. The greatest secret to finding the state of enlightened consciousness is when we get in touch with our deepest personal trauma and emotional pain. Our pain is there for a very profound spiritual reason. It pushes us to reach for the divine. We need a propulsion fuel so deep and powerful that it launches us directly into real spiritual awareness. We are so deeply asleep to our all-powerful infinite nature on a day-to-day basis that the only thing strong enough to break through this veil is a burning desire to be free from our suffering. It is our deepest pain that liberates us, and feeling into it daily will pave the path to our highest freedom. When we get a taste of enlightened consciousness, everything changes. We see everything as a spiritual experience. We see our mind instantly stops judging the world, ourselves, and our lives as we recognize the source of real peace here, now. We live in this world, yet truly beyond the judgments of this world. This non-judgmental approach liberates our energy to relax into the infinite healing presence of our being. This is how we attain the initial taste of our unbound freedom. It all begins with a simple connection with our own awareness and consciousness. When we drop into what is aware, what is present, what is watching the watcher, who is observing this experience of life, we open the doors to 100% pure awareness, free from the mind. By reopening this door again and again and again, we soon discover the highest, most blissful state of experience a human being can attain. Outer circumstances don't need so much effort to be changed, but the inner lethargy is centuries old. The unconsciousness is so primitive, its roots are so deep, that it needs a total determination on our part, a tremendous determination, a commitment, a deep involvement. You have to risk it all. Unless that happens, it is impossible to change yourself. You will remain the same. Osho. It truly depends on where we are currently at in our inner journey as to how many days, months, or years it will take before we discover our natural enlightened state. The more often we can practice resting in deep states of stillness, completely dropping all mind chatter, faster the enlightened state will arrive at our doorstep. Ultimately, it is the commitment to ourselves that sparks the evolution to finding higher consciousness. When we are truly committed to unveiling our infinite spiritual nature, diving deeper each day into the discovery of who we truly are, it is only a short matter of time before this universe delivers us to this ultimate enlightened state of being, knowing that which will totally satisfy our hearts and fulfill every yearning within our soul is not a small matter. When it comes down to it, the level of devotion we have to finding real freedom, which is the enlightened state, is a reflection of how much we actually love ourselves. Life is a test. It's a true test. It's a test of our depth of self-love. The level of enlightenment we experience along the way determines how often and quickly we can summon the quality of unstoppable inner peace, creativity, or compassion for others. The enlightened state is the base factor that determines how successful we are on our spiritual path. The main reason and purpose why we are all here. It is only through the infinite exploration of our inner journey that we can experience a real sense of freedom in our lives. It is an ironic thing. Yet in the enlightened state, we see that everyone is enlightened except for ourselves. We realize that there truly is no self, and thus there is no more suffering. It may be hard to comprehend because we are so accustomed to being identified with this mind, ego, and body. Yet the more we realize our true nature, the more we discover a life that is free from any form of pain. This freedom is the great spiritual peak that we are each here, climb, conquer. Every great work, every great accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision. And often, just before the big achievement comes apparent failure and discouragement. Florence Scoles in. Very true. One personal word of advice for all of us on our journey is to be patient with ourselves, as there are 1,000 brilliant obstacles along the way. On this great journey, the difference between illusion and reality is very slim, and will create many veils between the mind and our consciousness. We may forget many times that the highest state of freedom is here, available, now, waiting for us. It is like Mount Everest, always there, yet often hidden behind the clouds. Very few have the courage to even attempt to climb. So don't give up if you don't arrive on your first or 100th crack at it. There will always be another moment in the future, or perhaps another lifetime, when we will have more desire, courage, trust, and a fierce, penetrating, laser-like awareness to burn through the cloudy veils of the mind. And as Oscar Wilde made a quote, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." I'll join you in the meditation, and I'll return to close us out.
Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose. Easy and slow breath out from the mouth. There is a fierce feeling of liberation that naturally manifests when our mind dwells on what is divine. It may show itself as a sunset, a deep love-making experience, or even in the mirror every morning. Today is your day to acknowledge that you're a divine being too. However divinity reveals itself for you today, remember one holy thing. You can always find freedom in the pure consciousness that is behind it all. Feel into the boundaries of your consciousness and let them expand everywhere. Allow consciousness to seep deep into all things, people, places, and into every emotion and thought. This is the divine knowledge. Let this healing truth liberate you from your constant forgetting that you are an eternal soul who is cosmically expansive and universally connected. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night and the following morning. We will return here tonight around 9 p.m. Eastern to continue our Time for Change call. And Thursday, January 4, 2024, 3:15 p.m. Eastern to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, purest of the purest purest, eternal gratitude at all times. No matter what's happening within or outside of you.